Well, good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Vale of Whitehorse Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Max Thompson. I'll be chairing this meeting. This meeting is being held at the office in Abbey House, Abingdon. Voting members are here in person as required, but officers and public speakers have been given the option of joining remotely through Microsoft Teams. The meeting is also being streamed live and recorded on our council's YouTube channel in public viewing. So I have 5 housekeeping announcements. So firstly, for those who are joining remotely, when you're not speaking, please ensure your microphone is muted and your camera is off. If you share a presentation on the screen, please stop sharing as soon as it's no longer needed. Public speakers must only have their cameras on and be unmuted when addressing committee or answering questions of clarification in their designated slots. Number 2, for those of us here, evacuation procedure. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate the building by the nearest exit, which is immediately to your right as you enter the room, and please assemble at assembly point 9, which is just outside. On arriving at the meeting, you should have read the emergency evacuation procedure and signed the fire register, so please inform Democratic Services if you have not done so. Third, mobile phones, could they please be off or on silent during the meeting? Fourth, members of the public who wish to leave the meeting after the application you're interested in has been determined are very welcome to do so, but please do so quietly, and you can do so via the front door you came in through. And then finally, when the meeting has ended, I'll ask for confirmation the live stream has ended. At that point, please leave the virtual meeting or leave this room, and please remember to sign out as you leave. As a final point from me, this is a meeting in public, not a public meeting. And I ask that members of the public, those both attending here in person and those attending virtually, ensure they do not shout out or disrupt the committee's deliberation, of course, outside of those who've registered to speak in their allocated slots. That's all from me. So I move on to apologies for absence. Lucy, have you got any apologies this evening?
Thank you, Chair. We have no apologies.
Excellent. Would you mind taking a roll call?
Of course.
Thank you.
Councillor Max Thompson.
Yes, sir.
Councillor Val Shaw.
Present.
Councillor Ron Batstone.
Present.
Councillor Cheryl Briggs.
Here.
Councillor Jenny Hannaby.
Present.
Councillor Scott Bolton.
Present.
Councillor Robert Madison.
Present.
Councillor Mike Pickhels.
Here.
Councillor Jill Rayner.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I now turn to agenda item 3, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of June. Does anyone have any comments, or can I take them as a correct record? Councillor Hannaby.
I'd like to propose them as a correct record.
Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Jill Rayner. Okay, I'll have a quick vote on those.
You need to abstain because I wasn't there.
Okay, excellent. Very good. In that case, we'll abstain to get the vote. So, all those in favour of adopting those. Those against? Any abstentions? So we have a few abstentions, but we still have enough to carry that. So I will sign those at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations this evening? Councillor Horse.
Thank you, Chair. On item 9, I am the ward councillor for that item, so I'll be speaking and not taking part in the vote.
Thank you so much, Councillor Horton. Agenda item 5 is urgent business. Emily, do we have any urgent business this evening?
No.
Okay, very good. And then finally, before we get to the agenda item, the applications, is just public participation. We have a number of people who've registered to speak on the application this evening, and we also received a number of statements which were circulated to members of the committee prior to the meeting, and we may make reference to both in our deliberations and in our questions. And with that, I turn to agenda item 7, which is gateways. Catherine, I believe you're presenting on this one.
I am. Can I share my screen?
Of course.
Okay. The first application to be considered is a proposal for a replacement dwelling at Gateways on Harcourt Hill. Members may remember a proposal for two dwellings on the site was refused by Planning Committee in April 2024. The conclusion of the committee at the time was that there was insufficient space on site to accommodate 2 dwellings and that the development would conflict with the established character of the area. The application was subsequently dismissed at appeal. The applicant has submitted a new application for 1 replacement dwelling. A committee site visit was carried out earlier today to help understand the context and character of the Harcourt Hill area. For context, the existing dwelling measures 7.7 metres to the ridge, with Southfields shown on the left, measuring 8.55 metres, but is set down on lower ground. I don't have a height for Six Elms, which is the neighbouring property on the other side, but it's a chalet bungalow on slightly higher ground level. The proposed dwelling, seen in brown here, measures 8 metres, referring to the section over the garage, and 8.9 metres for the section, the higher section, which is adjacent to Stanton Road. Following pictures show the existing dwelling. On the right, you can see Stanton Road. On the left is facing onto Harcourt Hill. And here you can see the neighbouring property, Southfield, and the relationship between the proposal site and Southfield. And then the chalet bungalow, Six Elms, which is adjacent to the site but faces onto Stanton Road. The proposed footprint in comparison to the existing dwelling and spacing to neighbouring dwellings can be seen here. The main concerns raised during the consultation related to the height and scale of the dwelling, particularly on the side elevation facing Stanton Road. Although the roof space was dropped down on the front elevation, there were concerns that this side elevation still reads as 3-storey and would be harmful, and would also result in loss of privacy to Six Elms. The separation distance between the proposed dwelling and Southfields on the left, and this is over the neighbouring garage, is 13 metres, and it would be 23 metres to upper floor openings. Between the 3-storey element of the proposal and the closest part of Six Elms across Stanton Road is 19 metres, measuring 24 metres to openings. In both cases, sufficient separation space is provided to ensure residential amenity is not compromised. Officers have considered the matters raised during the consultation process in detail, and also having regard to the neighbourhood plan. The plan requires development to respect the established character and heights of dwellings in the area, and in this character area, the plan allows for 3-storey dwellings with a height of up to 12 metres. The front elevation reads as a large 2-storey dwelling that retains a buffer to the highway, as seen along other blocks on Harcourt Hill. The side elevation reads as a 2.5-storey dwelling with accommodation in the roof, and would be well below the 12-metre character area threshold. Finally, considering the proposed design, it is recognised that the established character of Harcourt Hill, which is character area 9, is made up of a variety of designs. The proposal retains a large buffer to the front, along with maintaining the leafy green streets in character. While it is a large replacement dwelling, it is recognised that properties in the immediate area are also large dwellings on large plots and of a mix of designs. The proposed design is therefore not out of keeping with the immediate character of the area and is recommended for approval. I pass back to the Chair and Committee to consider the proposal in more detail.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Cathy. We might return to you for some questions after we've heard from our speakers on this application. So our first speaker is Mr. David Wyatt. Excellent. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
And you'll have 3 minutes. Well, you're very welcome, and you'll have 3 minutes when you're ready, and then there may be some questions of clarification from us all.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, this application is for a large, particularly bulky 3-storey house of a dominating presence on an important corner site, an anomaly in its setting and overlooking its neighbours, causing both harm to their amenity and to the character and appearance of the neighbourhood generally, contrary to local and neighbourhood plan policies. It is contrary to CP 37, which states that all proposals will be required to be of high quality that responds positively to the site and its surroundings. This does not do this. The main problems being the size and height in this particular location. The 3rd storey fronts Stanton Road, and it's even more inappropriate and prominent in that location. In both facing and being adjacent to chalet bungalows, it has a long flank wall with little relief. It is contrary to HS1, as it states that new housing should respect and enhance the character of the area in which they are located, and that any proposal for new housing should take account of the scale and grain and size of existing development in accordance with the local character assessment, which this fails to do because of its size and bulk. It is contrary to HS2, which states that new housing should reflect the predominantly low-rise character of the parish and should not normally exceed the existing building heights. It is contrary to the design guide, which points out that corner plots should generally maintain the same ridge lines as adjacent buildings. It is contrary to DP23 because the bulk and height of this proposed dwelling does not take into account the roof line, which is substantially higher than the adjacent houses, Southfield and Six Elms, atypical to the area, and it will appear domineering and cause harm to adjoining amenities. This is all out of keeping with surrounding development and harmful to the character and appearance of the area. Two important points were made by the planning inspector for the dismissed appeal of the last applications that were relevant to this application, commenting particularly adversely that a long flank wall in a similar location would have a stark and imposing effect on the surroundings of the site, and the landscaping along the verge of Stanton Road cannot be relied on in the long term to help screen this visual impact, as it is not in the control of the applicant. Paragraph 719 of the report to committee already agrees that the height of this dwelling is contrary to the building heights in the immediate area, and therefore HS1. Paragraph 720 of the report agrees that any expansion into the roof could result in dwelling that is substantially larger than the established character of the area. As such, any expansion would not affect the size or bulk of the proposed dwelling. It must therefore follow that the submitted proposal will have the same effect of being out of the established character of the area. Recognising that both the height and scale are in fact out of character in the report, reinforcing our previous comments. And for these reasons, we ask you to refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wyatt. I'll just ask if any members of the committee have any questions or clarification for you. I can't see any, so that was very clear. Thank you very much, Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you.
Excellent. I'll now turn to our second speaker on this application, which is Mr. Duncan Woolidge, who's joining us virtually. Mr. Woolidge, you there?
Oh, yes, I am. Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Fine. Thank you very much. As with everyone, you'll have 3 minutes when you're ready, and then there may be some questions and clarification for you afterwards. So please, when you're ready.
Marvellous, thank you. And I'm the agent for this application, and obviously, as you're more than aware, and Catherine's already presented this as being through a slightly tortuous set of applications in the past, but the realisation now that one replacement dwelling seems to be the most logical approach. And we consider Catherine's report to be a clear and accurate appraisal of the relevant planning policies, and we're delighted the recommendation is to approve. We just wanted to reinforce that the statutory technical consultees concerning drainage, highways, forestry, etc., have no objections subject to the subsequent submission and approval of planning conditions, which we are happy to accept. We worked with the council on this application following the refusal of the previous applications, as mentioned by Catherine, and that we've obviously addressed the main problem where it was considered two houses weren't appropriate, so we've gone back to a single replacement dwelling. If you remember by the planning history of, I think it was 2019 or 2020, when we actually had a replacement dwelling approved for a poorer design, and then we've actually addressed that. And the salient points from the last committee meeting, I believe most of you were there, was certainly around the two plots and also around the appearance of the new dwelling, and the comments were made about the two houses looking a bit samey and a bit too sort of executive design, house designy, if you know what I mean. So we've kind of gone back to the drawing board and come up with a much more softer, more traditional design, mirroring certain architectural aspects from down the road. And so therefore we trust the more traditional massing and styling can now be accepted in accordance with the planning department's recommendation. And I can only ask the committee to give this matter the most careful consideration and welcome the opportunity to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Woolidge. I will now turn to the committee. Does anyone have any questions? I can't see any, so I'll say, oh, hang on, Councillor Pickles.
The different height levels of the land in that area, it's like step. Sorry, I don't know if you can.
I can see you.
Okay, cool. The way the land steps down.
Yes.
Given that this is quite a tall building, how was the different levels of land taken into account in this design? Because it does seem like it's very, very overpowering, particularly on its, as you look at the front of it, on its right-hand flank.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if Catherine can bring up the the elevations. But obviously, we've tried to make the section nearest Southfield, which I think is the house you're talking about, as you look at from the road on the left-hand side. We've basically stepped that down, so it's essentially a standard 2-storey height against, and you can see kind of, I can't point at this, it's not going to work, but if you look at the top left image, you can see obviously the garage and that section of the house are at a lower level than the right-hand side. So we're respecting the natural topography of the land to create essentially in that area just a standard 2-storey house, essentially. And obviously it steps up to the right into the sort of 2.5-storey. It's essentially a 2-storey with a large loft, which we're going to have to try and convert as best we can. But the emphasis was definitely trying to create the image, certainly from the front elevation, of a standard 2-storey dwelling as you would see up the road.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? I can't see any, so I'll say thank you very much for your time this
Thank you
evening,
very
Mr.
much.
Willett. And I will now turn to our third speaker on this application, which is Councillor Emily Smith. Councillor Smith, are you there?
Hello, Chair. Yes, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine, and as with everyone else, you have 3 minutes when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for hearing this application. Yeah, it was called in due to a long history of applications and dismissed appeals on the site. I really welcome the fact that the most recent application is for 1 dwelling rather than 2. However, my concerns around the character remain, particularly in relation to the comments made by the planning inspector when the last appeal was dismissed. This is a corner plot, as you know, so what happens here is extremely visible from Harcourt Hill and Stanton Road. The main issues that I still have with it are bulk and massing, particularly with the overbearing impact on Stanton Road. So when you're looking at the house from the front on the right-hand side, I think the other concern that I have is around the loss of the levels still really concern me because I walk in that area a lot. I know that street very well, and I think it's going to look huge on that corner because of the slope. The other concern I have is loss of vegetation because it's a very green area washed over by greenbelt. And if you're minded to approve this, I would ask really careful consideration be given to how replacing of the planting would work and how enforceable conditions around screening and maintaining that green character would be achievable. And that was all I was going to say, unless you've got any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. I'll just see if there are any questions for you. Can't see any, so I'll say thank you very much for your time this evening. We're now going to turn to thank you. We're now going to turn to any questions for committee to Catherine, our officer. So has anyone got any questions for Catherine?
I've got a question.
Councillor.
Hi, Catherine. This is a very large building, and so I know there are other large buildings in this area, but it would be one of the largest ones there. And particularly as you've got bungalows to one side, or you've got chalet bungalows to one side of it. How did the officers arrive at the feeling that this wasn't out of character and wasn't too big a property on this particular corner plot?
I think it's we have looked at properties along Harcourt Hill, but also continuing on to Stanton Road. And I think looking at particularly some of the ones on Stanton Road, they are very large, and there are examples where there are roof lights in the roof, so that upper floor space is being used. And in terms of what the neighbourhood plan allows for, it does allow for 3-storey in that particular character area and up to 12 metres. And this is around the 9-metre mark. So if it is below that, I think we did push with the applicant to reduce the front elevation, so dropping down over the garage area. So that is still clearly read as 2-storey, but balancing that with other properties you can see on Stanton Road, keeping the side elevation as 2.5. We felt that was in keeping with other properties on the street. And that's what's informed the overall sort of balancing act in terms of is it acceptable or not in terms of character.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Chair. I remember last time when the previous application came to committee, there was a lot of talk around problems with overlooking neighbouring properties and conditioning. I don't remember what it was to do with the windows in the roof. Is that still on this application, something similar to that?
Yes, so we've got the windows that are facing Southfield. The 2-storey windows are the sort of larger area that's set in, so it increases the buffer to the boundary. There is a roof light in the upper floor bit, and that's still going to be 1.7 metres. So combined with the buffer distance and that height, we're happy that that's not affected. In terms of the windows that are going to be facing towards 6 Elms, there are first floor windows, and there are 2, a dormer window and a roof light. Having looked at the distances, the first point is that you'd be it sort of shows. Can I bring up one of the plans to show that? But it primarily overlooks front driveway, front garden space. So that's the main consideration. But also where there are upper floor windows at 6 Elms, I've looked at the angle there, and I'm sorry, do 2 things at the same time. I think that shares it quite well. So you do have roof light, double window here, roof light here, but again, you've got 1.7 metre for the roof lights. That doesn't concern me too much. In terms of the dormer, there would be a 25 metre distance to any sort of habitable rooms, and that's across driveway and front garden space that you could stand on the road and sort of appreciate that. The rear garden space wouldn't be affected. And I did have another look at the dormer window on the back elevation, which still has a 24 metre separation distance, but with the angling and the orientation, it would be very difficult to have overlooking from that window. And you have also got quite a bit of screening along that side.
Good. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? But please, Councillor Mouse.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question about the conditions. Councillor Smith mentioned the tree cover at the front of the property to maintain the kind of leafy appearance of the road and shield the property a bit as well, given its size. In the conditions that have been suggested, we've got a tree protection plan and a landscaping scheme. My question basically is, will that protect the trees to maintain cover, or would it be advisable to add in an extra condition just to reinforce, keeping lots of trees there to cover it a bit?
So the aim of the tree protection plan should be to cover anything that's going to be affected by the proposal. So that would be everything on the front and the side alongside Stanton Road. The Stanton Road trees and hedging is not within the development sites, but the protection could clearly be on the application site, so that we wouldn't want any materials being stored along that side, no machinery operating on those of, well, we know where the building is going to go, but so that will have to be protected, and knowing that that's such a key characteristic of that area, that's a priority for. So when say the tree protection plan comes at condition stage, the tree officer would be alert to that, and it could only be signed off if it protected both those elements.
Yes, I was going to ask the questions that people have already asked, but so I'd like to go to page 24 and the sum up really of the officer. I think she's captured everything that's in the report there. Well, I say she, sorry, Catherine, beg your pardon. I am 9.1, and that everything seems to be the development is appropriate, the character and the local residential area, which of course we've got bungalows one side and we've got large houses further on down the road. It's quite a mix. I do remember going there when we looked at the two house, when we went on site visit to see the two houses. So I do remember, and I do know that area. So and on compliance, I think you've covered that extremely well, because here is removal of permitted development right, no new openings in the roof space, no alteration or distance to roof, no conversion of roof space to living accommodation and removal of permitted development rights extensions, and would anything else they would want to do to the house would have to come back here to the plan. Is that correct?
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Pickles.
Let's go.
Okay.
You got there in the end.
Okay, right, yeah, it's about permitted development rights. Okay, right. So any further questions for Catherine, or should we move into debate? In which case I'm going to call for a motion. So would someone like to put forward a motion on this application?
I would agree with the officer's recommendation.
Okay, we have
and with the conditions.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Councillor Briggs. Okay, so we've got a motion to accept the officer's recommendation, approve this application. Would anyone like to say anything? Councillor Madison.
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly, because I do remember the previous meeting we had about this application quite well, and I remember having concerns myself at that time about the having two buildings on the plot. If I remember correctly, my opinion then was it would be too much for the site. Having seen this new plan and all the representations made here tonight, my opinion now is that actually it is acceptable as an application for one building. Having considered everything about the height and the massing, I think the site is adequate to take one building of the height and dimensions before us tonight, and for that reason I'll be supporting the motion.
Councillor Pickles.
So I'm first of all, I'm pleased that we've gone to one dwelling from two. I think it's more appropriate for that location. I am slightly troubled with the application though, because it is such a large building in a very prominent place, and I think having been, I couldn't come on the site visit, but I went up earlier in the week actually to have a look, and just on that corner you will get this very long flank appearance of the building, and I wonder sometimes. Well, I wondered to myself whether this is a high quality design in the context. I'm sure it's a high quality design, but in the context of its setting. And I also add to that the sheer bulk of this building, which troubles me, which probably swings me in favour of not supporting this. I mean, this is a very delicate balance. You know, it's about, is this in character for the area, and this is always a very fine planning balance. I mean, I think there are no technical objections, which kind of, so we're not going to go there. But I think I slightly come round to the view that this is too big, and particularly the way that third story appears. Incidentally, by the way, I'm very pleased that, having read the conditions, that we've taken away the permitted development rights effectively. But my question actually, in my mind is how sustainable that is going forward. So I do worry about these places getting bigger as well. That's just my opinion.
So if anyone wants to say anything further on this?
I think I was just reading it thoroughly, and there is no, I have not seen any objections from any of the usual people that we ask, etc. So I just wanted to put that in, and I think it's very clear, precise report from our officer and why this can go on here. In actual fact, I really didn't mind the two because I thought the two could go on there, and I remember me saying so. That split the site up, just having the two there. But as I say, I'm going to support this application.
And I think just for the avoidance of doubt, when we say that there's no objections, we understand there are neighbours' objections.
There are, but I'm saying about the statutory people that we are.
Of course, so it's just the previous meeting, I think someone came up and said that there were objections. I just want to say that we do understand there are objections from the parish, and we do understand the issues to do with character on this. Indeed, I found it very useful attending the site visit myself earlier today. Anyone got anything further to say on this application? Councillor Blackstone.
Yeah, I think just very briefly, I mean, walking around the site, there are lots of large houses around this development. And looking at the officer's comment and the plans, I don't think it's going to be particularly out of character with some of the surrounding houses. So I would support this application.
Anything further? In which I'm going to call for a vote on this application. So we've got a motion to approve. So all those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? That passes. Okay, thank you very much to our speakers and thank you to Catherine. We're now going to move on to our next application, which is 91 Eaton Road. And Lewis, I believe you're presenting on this one. So we'll put some more people there in the room. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the next application, 91 Eaton Road. Lewis, please. Thank you.
Chair. Okay, so the next item is 91 Eaton Road, Appleton. The application comes before committee as council owns part of the site and objections have been submitted. Just one update for you. We are adding an additional condition to your packs, further access condition as shown here, just to ensure the implementation of the access prior to occupation. Okay, so the existing property is a semi-detached dwelling. It's part of backland development shown here in Appleton, just off Eaton Road. The properties are accessed off Eaton Road by a track running approximately 80 metres along that northern boundary there with the agricultural fields beyond. The council has ownership of that access, which is been called in. This is the existing site. Number 91 is the eastern property there, the two, and now it's a large area of community space to the side to which this application relates. So the proposal is to extend the existing dwelling by 3 metres up the rear, single and 2-storey level, and to construct a new 2-bedroom dwelling off the eastern side with parking and turning space in front. So Appleton is defined as a smaller village, which allows for limited infill, providing it is in keeping and proportionate scale. Proposal is for 1 unit and is considered acceptable and would help contribute towards the district's housing supply and make use of local facilities. These are the proposed elevations. The new dwelling would be of the same height and width as the existing and same roof pitch. But it would be set back half the depth of the existing, and a single-storey element would come off the side, creating a staggered arrangement of the built form, which is shown on the right-hand image there in the centre. These are the proposed floor plans, which shows compliance with the 35-degree rule for the upper floors, and subdivision of the plot would result in plot widths of 7.5 and 8.5 metres, which is comparable to plot widths of the terrace dwellings to the east. Amenity spaces meet the design guide recommendations to dwellings. The new dwelling will be separated from the neighbours to the east by over 21 metres, which you can see from this overhead image here. The buildings to the south are offices. The distances would comply with our design guidance and that not result in overshadowing, loss of light or visual dominance. This is the site which some of the members here visited this afternoon. Number 91 is the closest to us there, here in the eastern elevation. This is the rear, so there'll be a 3-metre extension projecting off the rear with the 2-storey element restricted to the right-hand side of that building. So the right-hand half of that rear elevation. And the new dwelling will sit across the amenity space at the side there. This is looking back towards the south, and you can see the offices there behind the fence. This is a view actually from the neighbouring property, looking back towards the terrace house in the distance there, which can give you some idea of the distance involved. Here we have the existing access off Eaton Road and down the track towards the existing dwellings at the very far end there, see at the end of the track. Improvements are proposed to this access, including widening by 1.8 metres and extension of the existing culvert beneath. Highways officers raised no objections to this proposal. Final details would be agreed with OCC post determination by the 278 agreement. This improvement will provide a passing place off Eaton Road to mitigate the impact of the additional traffic movements that will be generated from the new dwelling. It'll also provide benefit to the existing dwellings. Implementation of this prior to occupation has been conditioned, as mentioned at the start of the presentation. In terms of waste collection, New Dwelling utilised the same refuse collection arrangement as the two dwellings, which are picked up here at the side of Eaton Road. The construction of New Dwelling will not increase the frequency of collection. The Waste Management Officer has been consulted and raised no objections to the additional bin. It's not considered to significantly affect highway safety, particularly given the access improvements just discussed. Several amendments were submitted during the process to clarify the parking arrangement. So this is the parking plan considered acceptable by the highways officer. Turning space and 4 parking spaces are provided. That's 2 for each dwelling, all of which meet county standards and are conditioned to be implemented and retained. Cycle parking is also provided along with vehicle charging points. We have had several objections focused on mainly flooding and biodiversity. In terms of flood risk, although the site is not in a flood zone, neighbours have highlighted that the site has been historically susceptible to surface water flooding with runoff from the adjacent fields. And the existing hedge along that northern boundary you can see there forms a natural barrier to this. And concerns are raised that any trimming back of this hedge could be detrimental to its health and subsequently increase that flood risk. So this is the hedge in question along the left-hand side here, which you can see runs the entire length of this access track. And specialist drainage, forestry and ecology officers have all been consulted and raised no objections subject to conditions. We have added a condition to include the submission of a construction environmental management plan, which is number 3 in the pack there, which provides details of no-dig construction methods for any widening of the track and general hedgerow protection measures to be agreed prior to commencement, which in our opinion would ensure the damage is not negatively impacted. So taking into account the views of the specialist officers and the conditions imposed, officers do not consider the works to result in either harm to the hedgerow or to increase the risk of flooding. Moving on to biodiversity, additional bat surveys were requested following concern that a roost was present in an existing house. Following these surveys, no evidence was found of bats using the property, and the ecology officer raised no objections, again subject to conditions. The ecology officer has also responded to questions over biodiversity net gain and confirmed acceptance of the details provided. 10% net gain will be delivered via offsetting due to the limited curtilage, and this matter will be secured post-determination through the general BNG condition, which is automatically applied. So to conclude, all technical aspects of the proposal have been considered, and we have no objections from the statutory consultees. Principal development is accepted, and the presumed design is not considered to be harmful to the character of the area. Therefore, officer's recommendation is for approval of the application with conditions attached. And I'll hand back to the chair.
Okay, thanks very much, Lewis. We'll return to you for some questions once we've heard from our speakers on this application. So our first speaker on this application is Mr. Anthony Thrasher. Mr. Thrasher. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, Mr. Thrasher. As with everyone else, you'll have 3 minutes when you're ready, and there may be some questions of clarification for you after you're done. So please.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the residents of the 5 households in the immediate neighbourhood, including myself at 93 Eaton Road, unsurprisingly. We've circulated a detailed summary of our objections and trust that you have reviewed it, and perhaps you've had the chance to come visit the site. I've no idea, but hopefully you have. We challenge the planning officer's report, which relies heavily on the absence of objection from the statutory agencies subject to conditions. We specifically contest the validity of these conditions. And as an example, I will speak about the dike-shaped bank and the hedge planted on it, a known flood defence and a habitat for wildlife. The hedge has not yet been properly assessed for its condition due to the use of the incorrect metric. This is particularly troubling given that the ecology officer has stated that despite imposing conditions, the hedge is likely to degrade to poor condition post-development. How can the Construction Environment Management Plan, CEMP, in one statement ensure the hedge's condition, yet elsewhere the county ecologists acknowledges likely degradation to poor post-development. This inconsistency highlights the muddled thinking we are facing. A 1 metre no-dig condition is not achievable in the Vales if the Vales access lane is to be widened as planned. The planning officer has said that a condition of granting the application is that widening must be completed before building commences. If this is the case, the project falls at the first hurdle. Neighbour community objections. 9 neighbours representing 12 adults submitted objections. Many of these individuals have a deep knowledge of the site and long-standing ties with the area. Amongst them is an ecologist with personal history at 93 who understands the site's unique environmental context. The parish council has also formally objected, and we know that many more villagers share these concerns. We do not agree with the officer's responses to these neighbourhood representations. The local knowledge and specific issues raised by the residents deserve far greater weight in the decision-making process than they appear to have been given. Relevant planning history. As context, we wish to highlight the planning history for our own property, number 93, with applications in 1982, before we resided there, 1989 and 1997. They were carefully considered and in consultation with neighbours to ensure no negative impacts, reflecting a spirit of community discussion and consideration. This stands in stark contrast to the current application under review. Our main arguments are as follows.
Mr. Thresher, I'm afraid you're out of time, so if you could be very, very brief, your observation.
Well, you've got, okay.
We have, I mean,
you have what I've written, and it is totally impossible to say anything. Anyway, okay, so in conclusion, we urge the committee to listen to the voices of those who know the site best, the residents of the neighbourhood, and to reject the application which threatens to harm local ecology, disrupt access, undermine the community harmony, and upset the careful balance that has been maintained in the neighbourhood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thresher. We may have some questions of clarification for you, so I don't know if I'll check. Sorry, I don't want to make you sit down in case we don't have any, but does anyone have any questions of clarification, Mr. Thresher? Councillor Pickles.
Were there any important points you feel you didn't manage to get across in your?
I can't really. You've read it. You hopefully have seen my thing. It's totally impossible to put the amount of stuff that everybody in the immediate neighbourhood has put across. And okay, there's nothing in particular. No, I'm going to say it's totally out of character. It's not an inline building. I could sit here and go on for flipping ages.
Indeed, and we have.
And you have that. So you have that, and you have all the other representations on the site. And apologies for all the ones I put on.
No, it's
pretty much on behalf of everybody else, to be honest.
I have one question actually, and as I say, I'm not an expert when it comes to like sort of building construction management plans. But you mentioned that it wouldn't be possible to do the no dig condition for a meeting. Can you just expand on that? Why would that not be possible?
Well, we believe, and we don't think anybody's particularly checked it properly, that we basically believe that particularly, I haven't got a mouse or anything to show you, but if I point on this, that would be the thing. We think particularly here in this area, where the lane has to be widened, that it will actually go past the other side of the centre of the hedge, partly because we believe that, well, we know from experience, and sadly the person at 89 died recently, but everybody knows that, and if you look at the Vale plan of your lane, that this is not the boundary of the property. Number 89 in our view, but I mean I can't prove it, but that's what's drawn on the plan. And if you measure past, if you visited it, you probably saw a fire hydrant sign. If you go past there, and you then take where we think the boundary is, you might have seen a string line that I happen to just put up, which isn't actually the boundary, but gives you a clearer idea of whereabouts it is. If you actually then measure across, it will go, well, where's the centre of the hedge on this? Here. It will go beyond that.
So just unclear, you're saying where the roots or where the
Well,
the head is less than a metre from the side of the road.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, what you have to understand, this is built on a verge, a bank, which is a flood defence, which was, I think, man-made a long time ago, and that the moment you cut into that verge, you're cutting into that bank. So you have to cut into that bank to widen the lane, to widen the access lane. So instantly you are getting rid of part of that bank.
Thank you very much.
So I do not believe that the so-called damage that's written down here to the hedge as well, we'll just trim it back here, we'll trim it back here.
Thank you, Mr.
And that's all fine. No, it's not.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions and clarification for Mr. Thresher? I think I just have one. At the moment, how many properties use that lane? I think is it 3 properties use that lane currently?
No, not exactly. There are 3 that have to use it for access to the property,
Yes.
i.e. 89, 91. But the other houses have access rights down that lane on their deeds.
Okay.
So that they can drive down there, stop, go take stuff around the back of the house into their gardens. Yeah. That's so they have access rights to that lane. So they don't use it often, but delivery drivers come there, stop, then walk down the front of the other house.
So just unclear. So 3 properties use it routinely, and then how many properties have is it all the properties there?
All the terraced houses there.
Okay, so we're
technically
going
have rights to that. Yeah, technically.
Understood.
And they use it on occasion.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Bruce.
You've said that it's been used now by 3 properties.
Yeah.
So why does it, if they can fit, why does it need widening?
Well, that's you tell me. I have no idea why it needs widening. Highways, it's a highways prescription. I think that's to ask.
Well, it sounds like question for our officer, perhaps.
I mean, the planning officer can do that. I can understand where you've got to widen it at the far end because you've got to have turning for an emergency vehicle, which actually clearly an emergency vehicle couldn't turn down there. So a fire engine couldn't, certainly not.
Yeah, we may return to that question later on. Are there any final questions for clarification? In which to say thank you very much for your statement to me. Thank you very much for the statement you circulated prior to the meeting. Thank you very much. I now call on our next speaker on this, which is Yolandi Evans, who will be speaking in support of this application. Excellent. Well, good evening, Ms. Evans. You, as everyone else, you'll have 3 minutes when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Before I start, I just wanted to say there was a topographical survey done for the site. So in terms of dimensions of anything, it was actually surveyed. So it's just worth mentioning that as well. So I'm the applicant and the owner of 91 Eaton Road. And throughout the process, I've worked with the planning officers for this application, starting with pre-application. Then I submitted an application, which I then withdrew because of objectors' comments, but also some concerns from the planning officer as well as officers wanting more information. I then redesigned and I've submitted a new application. So this has gone on a few times now. The main issues that were raised by the objectors covers ecology, flood risk, highways, overdevelopment, out of character and residential amenity. Each of these issues are considered in detail within the officer's report. It's worth noting there are no technical objections to this application. In fact, none of the internal consultees and council officers raised any objections to any element of this proposal. When I was asked to provide additional information to assist the officers in their consideration of the scheme, such as further back surveys, I provided these additional reports to ensure the officers are content and that they have the necessary information to make a full and balanced judgment. As within their report, officers have considered all relevant issues and concluded in all regards that the proposal is acceptable. Officers confirmed that there are no policy or technical grounds to object to the scheme and that the proposal accords with the relevant planning policy framework and guidance. Whilst this is only one dwelling, the approval of the application would also make a small contribution towards meeting local housing needs as a windfall site. And the government is clear in their NPPF that there should be a presumption towards delivering housing in sustainable locations. Based on the above and the recommendation of your officer, I'd like to ask members of the committee to approve the application. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Evans. Has anyone got any questions or clarification? I think I just have one. So, and again, I might return to our officer for this question as well. But you mentioned a topographical survey. So, what did that entail, and what did that look like? Because did that cover the full length of the hedge? What did that involve?
So all the way from the entrance of the site, all the way along. You can even see on that plan where the dimensions of the ridges and that of the neighbours. All of that area was surveyed by a topographical surveyor. So the dimensions of the widths of the lane and that is accurate.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? I can't see any, so thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you. And
we'll now turn to any questions we have of our officers. So does anyone have any questions for this? Councillor Pickles.
So in terms of the point raised about the damage to the bank, so I read this as cutting back the hedge, not damaging the bank. So what's your understanding of what work is actually required?
So you can see the areas in orange there that needs to be trimmed back. There's also widened that of the access lane there to allow that turning space. So there's CEMP has required no dig foundation, no dig works to be done there. So we believe with that in place, there's adequate measures there to prevent damage to that hedge.
So for the avoidance of doubt in my mind then, so trimming back a hedge means just trimming back the kind of branches and things, not digging at all into the soil or into the bank, the natural bank. So, well, whether it's man-made or whether it's natural.
Yeah, that all forms part of that condition, which needs to be cleared to be cleared.
So that is both at the road end of the lane,
so the large
as well as the extension for the little bit at the end for the emergency vehicles. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
So sorry, just for clarity again on this one. So it's only the orange sections that are shown there that the hedges are being cut back. The rest is being left as is.
Yeah, that's the only.
And then the actual how much is the actual track being widened by? Because I can see on the plans what's happening up at the road end. That's quite clear, but I'm less clear on what's happening on the rest of it.
So you can see the above the vehicle track in there. The vehicle to the furthest right hand side there.
Put your photograph. So, sorry,
If you go back to
if you put your photograph, it might be easier to explain.
Yeah, so we're looking at this already. So yeah, action to see the area above the vehicle track in there. See the line has goes up slightly up to the into the bank there. So that's the area we're looking at here.
Okay, so actually in the midsection of the track, it's not being adjusted, or is it?
There's no widening.
Councillor Briggs, sorry, this relates to your question as well. So
yeah, I think you just answered.
It may already be answered. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. So I'll bring Councillor Horton back in, and then
my other question is relating again to the track. You said part of this land is owned by the Vale. Do you have anything showing which bits are owned by the Vale and which bits are not? So
it's the access track.
It is just the track, the entire length of the track up to some point.
Yeah. I think it was Councillor Hannaby next, actually, but is your question specifically on the track? Because I'll stick to the track, and then we'll please.
So I hope it's a quick one.
Yeah.
So could you photograph back up, please? Sorry. So again, just to the avoidance of doubt, right? So where I can see tarmac and a bit of gravel there, that's not changing.
Or is it on the midsection?
I mean, I understand the entrance and a little bit of the end's going to change.
Yeah.
But the rest of it will be. So the extent to which the tarmac and gravel is there at the moment, that's not going to change at all.
Not in that midsection, though, just the sections.
Councillor Hannaby.
Yeah, I was. I'm content with the report about the building, etc., sitting there, etc. But it's just the flood risk because floods so much in our minds at the moment. But again, reading it, it seemed to me that there is no probability of flooding. Is that?
We're not in a flood zone, obviously.
Yes, it's in the flood zone, but in this report, it's very encouraging that won't be happening.
We're satisfied that with the condition in place to keep that hedge retained and no negative impact on that hedge, situation remain as it is now, and that's created a natural barrier that Mr. Thatcher discussed earlier.
But you as the officer you've looked at it thoroughly, and you are content that flooding won't occur.
We're content there'll be no additional risk.
Right, thank you.
The drainage engineer has raised no objection.
Are there any Councillor Rayner?
That was my concern, the comment about the surface water and drainage from the fields. So I'm just hopefully not repeating what my dad said.
No, repeat it because we need to hear it.
I know. So the hedgerow is not going to be moved just on a bit of a haircut that's having a trend. It won't be it won't be altered, and will not allow any change in the current status quo as far as drainage is concerned. Is that correct?
That's correct. Like I said, with the condition we've imposed there for no dig works and other protection measures, we feel that is sufficient to ensure that health our hedge remains.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for our officer? I think just for the avoidance of doubt, so the condition you mentioned at the beginning, that's not currently part of this report.
That's not, sorry, yes.
So so can we just be clear? So I mean, what is the point of that? Sorry, no. What is the rationale? Not the point. What is the rationale behind this extra condition?
It's to do with the trigger. So we think that we need this to ensure that the dwelling can't be built without them doing the access.
Right.
So it ensures that access is.
So access comes first.
Access comes first.
Okay.
Before they can shut the dwelling.
Okay, thank you very much. Right. Are there any further questions for our officer, or shall we move into debate? Okay, in which case let's move into debate. So would someone like to put forward a motion on the application? Councillor Batson.
Yes, I propose that we accept the application. I think the officers have done some very detailed work on this application over a number of years, and I see there are no statutory objections. It is mainly technical objections, I think, and I think we've adequately addressed them.
Is there a seconder for that application? And just to clarify, that would be to accept the recommendation with the
recommendation.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Hannaby. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion before us to accept the officer recommendation to extra condition. Right, who would like to speak?
Well, I think the report actually gives us a good understanding that this dwelling would sit correctly in this area and would blend in. I'm not quite sure of the comment about the materials, because I'm looking at it, I thought the materials would blend in with what's existing there. I think there's some wooden wooding, but I mean, people do use that, don't they? The flooding was the only thing that I really worried about, to be honest with you. Waste is fine. We've seen where the waste will be, and we've seen the state of the track. That looks as though it could live with a bit of a surface, but I mean that's just a comment. But I think in here in your report, I'm quite satisfied to support.
I think also just to confirm, there is a condition on material samples prior to commencement of development as well. And on the site this day, it was actually bin day, and so because I always get very nervous about bins and where they're going to be located. And my judgment was there is space for 3 bins along that bit, and there is the bin store planned, and it's very clear that they're not allowed to have bins in where the where the parking space work, because bins always do concern me. Anything further on this application? Okay, in which case I'm going to say we should take a vote on this application. So we have a motion to approve the application with that extra condition that's been mentioned. So those in favour, those against, any abstentions? No. Okay, that is approved. Thank you very much. Thank you for our speakers. Thank you, Lewis. Although Lewis, you're on the next one as well. So it's okay, thank you. Perfect. So I'll give us a second to get the next application up. So our next application. Oh, sorry. Not that's all right. I'll say it when it goes up. Okay, thank you. Our next application is 22 Norries Road.
Another view here you can see, why this could cause issues for pedestrians and particularly wheelchair users and buggers and so forth. So, along with omitting the reference to the garage, as the applicant has requested, through this application we're seeking to resolve this issue raised by the parish, and by varying the conditions wording to require the access to be completed within 3 months of permission being issued. So you see from the wording here. This is to ensure the works are completed within a reasonable and enforceable timescale. This condition wording has been agreed and was advised by the County Highways officer. So the officer's recommendation is therefore to approve this Section 3 application with the amended condition wording, therefore trying to resolve this issue that's been raised. Hand you back to the chair.
Thank you very much, Lewis. We'll return to you for some questions from the Parish Council. Councillor Roberts, are you there?
I am here.
Excellent, very good. I hear
Just
you.
waiting for the IT.
It's all right, I can hear you, I can see you, and you have 3 minutes when you're ready.
Okay. Yes, the parish's concern is that the conditioned back garden boundary between 22 and 24 is absent. There is some fencing there, as you can see, but it's very easily to be removed. This has always been a questionable backland development, and the side access as it currently stands would easily give access to the back plot. Main feeling about is that the amenity space is not actually delineated as this plan. We're being asked to change condition 2. That would mean if any access down the side or the back into the other plot. And also because otherwise it's currently unsafe for people who are actually living there and renting it. And I would ask for an extra condition, which would be that the back garden boundaries are all in place and fenced, and that the plot red line area is registered with the land registry, also to be completed within the 3 months that have been used for the other conditions. I've one further question as well, is since during the enormously long process this application has gone through, are there any outstanding enforcement inquiries that are still undetermined, or is this particular application supposed to actually complete all the actions that have not been completed from previous applications? So those are my main concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. I'll just see if there are any questions or clarification for you from the committee. I can't see any, so I'll say thank you very much for your time this evening. And I now call upon our next speaker, which is please, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. This hopefully won't take long. Councillor Roberts has already said pretty much everything that I was going to say anyway. The real questions on this one are essentially a matter of enforcement. We're looking to vary, two conditions, one of which is at the list of approved plans, so that's fine really. But the other one is very much that we're looking to vary a condition saying that so you should have done this before anyone moved in. They've completely ignored, the applicant has completely ignored that and moved people in anyway, and now we're saying, oh, okay, you can have another 3 months. This is the sort of thing I really think that community should be considering how we're dealing with this sort of enforcement issue on properties like this. Any other comments regarding the actual property itself, I think Councillor Roberts has already covered. It really is a question of how we are dealing with the conditions that we're actually putting on these applications.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson. I'll just ask if members of the committee have any questions for you before we turn to questions for our officer. I can't see any, so I'll say thank you very much for joining us. And Councillor Roberts, if you would mind turning off your camera at this stage, that would be great. Thank you so much. So, questions of our officer. Does anyone have any questions? Please, Councillor Hanby.
So, is there anything one could, the Vale could do to mitigate this problem and get them to do this? Have you no powers?
So we're talking about enforcement here. So I think we're going back to Councillor Roberts' question. So we've got within this application there is the 3-month approval, but I think this is the question, and it relates to Councillor Roberts' question as well. Is that are there any outstanding enforcement issues on this site, and is there anything we can do about that?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a general question for Andrew, really, isn't it? We've got this application, so yes, they haven't completed their access when they should have done. That itself is an enforcement issue. This application has come in and it gives us an opportunity to try and rectify that situation within a set time frame, which is what we're trying to do through this. If we were to refuse this application, then of course it would go back, be an enforcement case, enforcement investigation, and proceed how they deem fit. We've got an opportunity here to try and get something sorted within the time frame suggested.
Would it be fair to point out that it's probably quicker to fix the problem this way than to go through enforcement?
Yes, I would agree, because by doing this, we're giving a 3-month time limit. If this is refused, then we go back to, in effect, square one again. Yeah. So there's many different, as you're aware, there's different ways in which we can deal with enforcement matters. In this particular site, given this application was in, this was seen as a way of resolving, probably in the most quickest way, this access issue, hence the condition on this.
Okay, thank you. And I think, Lewis, just for clarification, because obviously looking at the site, there is a concern with background. We've heard about this.
The case maybe.
Yes, so the onus was on the applicant to have got this done.
Because you need to, you need to pay for the drop curb, you need to get a permit, and that takes time from the county. I can't say they're much quicker either, actually.
Well, they won't have it in 3 months.
Well, that's the question. Is 3 months a realistic time?
This is in my mind. I think, we're going to look at this again in 3 months.
Well, my hope would be, I mean, I don't know. My hope would be that this is something. Sorry, when I moved to it, my hope would be this is something where the applicant is already putting in those measures. But I guess there's nothing we can do to, enforce that. I get personally, I guess I'd rather it was 3 months than 6 months. But that's just me. Sorry, I'm moving to space. Sorry, that's not a question.
No, you're quite right. If the applicant is not bothered about doing it now and might not be bothered about doing it in 6 months' time, but we can only do what we can do in a reasonable manner, I think.
So I think I am inadvertently moving us into debate. So does anyone have any final questions or clarification for our officer before we do actually move into debate?
I did actually.
That's Ringo, please.
Forgive me for moving away from the access issue. The kind of removal of the garage, effectively, does that cause any concerns as to what the longer term intention for this site's going to be?
We can't really look at longer term intention. The removal of the garage in itself is not objectionable. They're still providing the 2 parking spaces that was required for the property. If anything, it creates, say, a lesser visual impact by not having it there.
Okay, I just wondered.
Anything happening at the rear of the site It's not within the scope of this.
Okay. Right. I'm going to suggest a motion on this application. Councillor Pickles.
I would propose that we don't really have any alternative to accept this proposal. What I would say is it sounds like a pragmatic way forward to try and speed up, which is obviously a problem for the local residents and users of that footpath.
Do I have a second of that motion?
Oh, one second.
I think that's what Councillor Rayner's hand first. So, Councillor Rayner, you
I think they must be all tired.
Right. Would anyone like to anyone to say anything on this application?
Well, just that I hope that when the applicant gets told, would you please tell them that we don't ever see this again in 3 months?
So we feel very strongly that 3 months is a timely.
If he doesn't know how to apply, give him a form or something.
Pass on that message.
Okay, well, they're watching. Okay, right. Anything further, or shall we please, Councillor Rayner?
I'm just agreeing totally with Councillor Pickles. I don't think we have any choice but to go down this route to resolve, which is obviously a matter that won't be resolved any other way. So,
okay. In which case, I'm just going to take a vote on those applications. So those in favour of the motion, those against, any abstentions? That's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. We now move on to our last item on the agenda, which is appeals information, agenda item 10. This is to note the appeals process listed under agenda item 10, and that is so noted. 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 Okay, that is noted. Right. And with that, I say thank you all very much, and I will close the meeting. Bertie, could you please confirm the live stream has ended?